If you are lucky enough to be Italian Canadian, the chances are your family may have sacrificed an awful lot for you to get you to Canada. But how did they get there? What challenges did they face? What work did they do? Where did they stay? And at the end of the video, I'll give you a sample of successful Italian Canadians whose roots may surprise you. I'm also frequently asked, how do people find the roots to their Italian and Sicilian families? Well, I'm hoping that by explaining the general history of the emigration to Canada, where people pass through, I'm also going to give examples of data sources you can follow with the hope that you can find your Italian family. Italian immigration to Canada started during mid-19th century. In 1871, a Canadian census recorded just over 1,000 people of Italian origin in Canada. The Kingdom of Italy experienced a massive wave of outward emigration, and I covered the reasons in part 1 of this series. Transatlantic emigration to the Americas was composed of 80% of young working age males, and 3/4 of this group were either agricultural workers or peasants. The primary ports of entry to Canada were Halifax Harbour, Quebec City, and Victoria. Italians were typically imported to work as navvies in construction, seasonal heavy labour in railroad construction, maintenance, mining, lumber camps, and building projects. And these included working in large numbers on the Canadian Pacific Railway. By 1904, nearly half of the seasonal Canadian Pacific Railway workforce were of Italian descent. By early 20th century, emigration from southern Italy had people clustered around Toronto and Montreal. The Italian immigrants were also considered undesirable by the Canadian Immigration Act of 1869, based on their cultural affinity, the stereotypes, and typically this legislation preferred workers from Great Britain and Northern Europe. The Italian workers instead were considered as a stereotype to be volatile, violent, and criminal. Italian immigrants hoped for a work and a better life in Canada, but life was very hard for them, and not all of them succeeded. In 1901, a Milan newspaper described the exploitation employed in the recruitment industry, which began at Chiasso on the Swiss-Italian border, which then moved on to Liverpool, England, and then to Montreal, Canada. Italian labourers were often tricked into indefinite migration agreements to labour camps in Ontario, and if they complained, they risked becoming unemployed and destitute. The Italian General Commissariat for Immigration investigated this situation of exploitation and the working Italians in Canada in 1902. They found several influential padroni, labour exchange agents. These padroni had also arrangements with railway and steamship agents in Europe. They would then make very healthy profits. In 1905, a Canadian Royal Commission investigated the immigration of Italian labourers to Montreal, and it identified fraudulent practices being employed by the padroni. Despite this adversity, Italians settled in Canada and sponsored their own relatives and fellow villagers, reducing in time the influence of the intermediaries, the padroni, in the future. These groups clustered together. For example, Hamilton, Canada was populated by groups of Sicilians from Racalmuto Agrigento. The 1911 census recorded over 7,000 people of Italian origin in Montreal and over 4,000 in Toronto. They also spread out into other areas: Sydney, Nova Scotia, Welland, Ontario, Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, Coppercliff, Ontario, and Trail, British Columbia. Italian Canadians lived in urban areas working as construction workers, factory workers, building tradesmen, food and fruit merchants, barbers and cobblers. They also thrived in rural agricultural areas such as Niagara Peninsula, the Okanagan Valley. The Italian Canadians who clustered in Toronto and Montreal soon established little Italies there. But they also moved to other areas: Vancouver, Guelph, Windsor, Thunder Bay and Sherbrooke. For example, they worked in mining communities in Crow's Nest Pass and Inverness. The first Italian newspaper in Canada was published in Montreal in the late 19th century. However, by 1914, several others had been founded across Toronto and Vancouver. Italian immigrants soon set up mutual aid societies. Working Italian women typically worked in the clothing industry. By the end of World War I, new immigration laws and added to the Great Depression during the 1930s, this heavily constrained Italian immigration. Strong Italian family networks and cultures and the strong work ethic was very resistant to economic shocks, unemployment and deprivation. But the problems continued to pile up. By 1935, Canadians were hostile to fascism in Europe and towards Italian Canadians, who they viewed as sympathetic towards Benito Mussolini's fascist government in Italy. The frustrated majority of Italian Canadians harboured no ill will towards Canada at all, and were certainly not devout fascists. Facing the level of hostility, some Italians began to anglicise their names to hide their Italian origins. The War Measures Act labelled 31,000 Italian Canadians over the age of 16 as enemy aliens due to their apparent and alleged fascist connections. Between 1940 and 1943, between 600 and 700 of these were sent to internment camps such as Camp Petawawa. The remaining enemy aliens were subjected to widespread prejudice and discrimination. They often lost their jobs, had their shops vandalised, and their rights suspended. Another wave of immigration to Canada began after World War II, as Italians from southern Italy, Mezzogiorno, the regions Lazio, Abruzzo, Molise, Apulia, Campania, Calabria and Sicilia, left a devastated country looking for opportunities of a better life. A small number of Italian Istrians and Dalmatian Italians moved to Canada during the Istrian-Dalmatian exodus, forced out under duress. So now I want to cover a sample of successful Italian Canadians. Henri de Tonti was born in Gaeta, Italy, and he was an explorer of the Americas. Angelina Napolitano was born in Naples, Italy. She was the first woman in Canada to use the battered woman defence. She was charged with killing her abusive husband and was sentenced while pregnant to a death penalty. This was later commuted to life imprisonment after a public outcry. Yvonne De Carlo, actress, dancer and singer, full name Margaret Yvonne Middleton, was born in Vancouver and was of part Sicilian descent. Hubert Badanai was born in Azzano Decimo in Friuli, Venezia Giulia, and he was the first Italian member of the Canadian Parliament. Charles Marega was a sculptor born in Lucinico, Gorizia, and amongst other things he created the King Edward VII Memorial Fountain. Sergio Marchionne, born in Chieti, Abruzzo, former CEO of Fiat and Chrysler. Michael Bublé, full name Michael Stephen Bublé, born in Burnaby, British Columbia, singer, songwriter and record producer with family roots in Istria. Hayden Christensen, actor, born in Vancouver, and during a very short career as an actor is best known as Anakin Skywalker in the Star Wars series of films, and he has some roots in Messina, Sicilia and Italy. Linda Evangelista, fashion supermodel, born in St. Catharines, Ontario, and has roots in Pignataro, Interamna. She was known for coining the phrase, "We don't wake up for less than 10,000 a day." Susie Arioli, a jazz singer born in Toronto, Ontario, who has Italian roots. Click here to get even closer to Italy and Sicily.